Hello, welcome or welcome back. My name is Ashley. My channel is of olive oil and honey. And today I felt led to share 7 things that God has taught me in having a dog, adopting a dog, whatever you want to call it. It's something that I've been wanting to record for a while. And so I wanted to first introduce you to my 2 little boogers right now. So the first, this is my dog. Come here, Silas. I have treats just to encourage their participation. Come here, Popeyes. Come here. This one is Silas. Here you go. I adopted this one 4.5 years ago now. I think it was May 11th of either May 11th or May 12th of 2020. He was a COVID dog. Fun fact is that I actually only adopted a dog, I only purchased the house because I wanted a dog. Just because I wanted them to have space to roam and a backyard to run around in. And I would say the first point was going to be patience. And I honestly learned about patience even before adopting him because it took a while for me to find the right fit. But fortunately, I had connected to a staff member at a local shelter who was on the lookout for me. He was rescued, I think, in December of 2019. And he was adopted, I think, like February of 2020, but he was surrendered back to the shelter. And so she had sent me this picture. I'll post it on here. And it was basically love at first sight. And I wound up getting him a couple of weeks later. And yeah, that's kind of his origin story. This little guy is actually my sister's dog. Come here. Come here. Say hi. He likes to play. His name is Milo. He is a bundle of kisses and energy, all the things. Like I said, he's 2.5 years old, and I tell my sister that we co-mother him because I love and adore him almost as much as I love Silas, and he is just fun to have around. I have him for the weekend. I took both of them to the groomer, and I had a little photo shoot. I got them some sunglasses and a gold chain, and I'll show some pictures here. It turned out really cute. So yeah, I'm sure people are gonna ask about their breeds. So, and then I'll hop back into my points. So Milo is, I don't know what he's doing. He is mostly poodle, but he's also got some Maltese and Chihuahua in him. To me, he looks poodle Maltese. He's got these beautiful tight coils I just love, but very much the attitude and the personality of a Chihuahua. So Silas is more of a mystery. He has the color gradient of a Schnauzer, and then there's different aspects of his personality and intelligence and some physical attributes of his that remind me of a poodle. So I definitely see Schnauzer. I'm pretty confident on poodle, and then there's got to be something else in there because he does shed a little bit. But yeah, he's more of a mystery to me. But yeah, there are little mutts. And yeah, so I adopted Silas 4.5 years ago. Learned a lot about patience, even in the process of getting him, just waiting for the right match. And then no one really prepares you, or at least I didn't prepare myself for adopting a dog. So after I got him, you just don't know with adoption. They're not a clean slate like a puppy would normally be. So he came with a lot of anxiety. I don't know if this is a term in the dog world, but low confidence. I remember when I would take him out for hikes, there would be these like metal bridges, and he would not want to walk on them. I think maybe it was the sound. Maybe he felt like they would give. I don't know. But he'll walk over them now just fine. It just took a lot of time to help him build up his confidence, taking him to the dog parks, which I don't go anymore just because illness has passed on a little too quickly. I'll take him to general parks where I can just walk around, but socializing him, just it's taken a lot of work, and he's come a long way, but he's still definitely a work in progress. So yeah, number 1 is definitely patience. Number 2 is sacrifice, and I think of personal sacrifices as well as financial just at the top of my head. For personal, I can no longer sleep in because they have to go out and relieve themselves. I used to sleep in, especially on the weekends. I love to sleep in, especially when you're waking up early throughout the week. But you cannot do that. I mean, you can sleep in. I don't go over like 9 o'clock. I usually try, especially with this little one because he's smaller and when I have him, he can't hold it as long as the bigger one. But even just like I think of walking in non-perfect weather conditions. Silas loves walking when it's cold, especially when it's cold and windy. He'll literally just stop during the walk and let the breeze just go through his face. Meanwhile, everything on me is just freezing, so I'm like tugging him along, like, please, let's go. But he just loves it. He loves cold weather. And obviously, he still needs to be walked. You know, there's some nights where it's when the sun is setting earlier and he has to be walked, but it's nighttime. So I have to just gear up, layer up, and just go. So otherwise, if I didn't have him, I'd probably just love staying in and drinking some tea or something. And then I also think of financial. Like if you have a pet, you know well, there's vet bills, there's medication. So he's on HeartGuard and NexGuard for heartworm and forget the other one. I'm blanking right now. But yeah, he's on two that he has to take monthly. If there are emergencies, like you just never know. Those can be expensive. Vet offices are so expensive. So this honestly could be even a video of just what some things to take into consideration before getting a dog. So yeah, personal and financial sacrifice is number 2. Number 3 is learning about the spiritual nature and value of animals, something that I didn't really pay much attention to in the Bible before having a dog. So I think of instances like 1 Samuel 6, when God uses these 2 milk cows to carry the ark back home because the ark had been captured after Israel had been disobedient and everything like that. And you'll find this a few times in scripture where God is contrasting the obedience of an animal to the disobedience of Israel. So I think of that instance, as well as there's a lion in 1 Kings 13. This isn't really something that is preached on quite often, but I'm working through a Bible plan. I just recently read it a couple weeks ago, but there was this is after Judah and Israel split, and Jeroboam he's like the leader of Israel now, of Northeast Israel, and he starts off great. Per usual, things go south. He starts worshiping the golden calves, kind of like shortly after um, the body of Israel had left Egypt. Moses is on the mountain receiving word from God, and the people are just impatiently waiting, and they start worshiping the golden calf. So Jeroboam repeats the same thing. I don't understand it. Human nature, I suppose. But a man of God is sent to prophesy against him, and Jeroboam tries to get him to stay and eat and drink. And the man of God is like, nope, God said, go here, do this, don't eat or drink anything that they offer you, and I must be on my way. And so he leaves. He gives a prophecy to Jeroboam. He leaves, and on his way back, he's sitting under a tree, and a false prophet comes and invites him to his home. And he says, come to my house, let's eat and drink. The man of God says, that's not what God told me. The false prophet says, well, God told me that you can't come. And he's like, okay. So he goes and he eats and drinks. And as a result of his disobedience, when he's headed back home, okay, sorry guys. I had to migrate indoors because it was getting a little too toasty outside. We had a false fall a few weeks ago. That was really nice. We had crisp mornings, temperate, like maybe 80s, and then the temperatures just spiked here in Texas again. So it's been mid 90s the last few weeks. So hopefully at some point this month it starts cooling down toward the end of the month. So anyways, back to the story on the man of God in 1 Kings 13. So recap, he's not supposed to eat and drink while he's on mission going to Israel to rebuke Jeroboam and the northern Israel kingdom. He is deceived by a false prophet telling him that God told this false prophet he should eat and drink with him. So the man of God goes to his house, he eats and drinks. And as soon as he's done, the false prophet is used as a vessel by God to rebuke the man of God for disobeying his command to not eat and drink while he was on mission. So while he's on his way home, talking about the man of God, he is attacked by a lion. The lion doesn't even eat him. He just stands by his body basically until his body is retrieved. That's Silas. I meant to put up the squeak toy, sorry. And so I just think it's interesting how this lion was able to just obediently stand there. Normally, if there's flesh and it attacks, it'll eat it, but it didn't. It literally just stood there. And it contrasts the disobedience of Jeroboam. All of the northern Israelites that followed him into idolatry, and the man of God that disobeyed God's command on not eating and drinking while he was on mission. So I just think that story is so cool. And so we see these examples of God using or even speaking through like the donkey in Numbers 2022. Numbers 22. Um, we see the opposite in the Gospels, where we're introduced to the demon-possessed man that approaches Jesus, and Jesus is speaking to him, and you find out that the demons are called Legion because there were many. They ask to be cast out into, instead of the abyss, they ask to be cast into a nearby herd of swine, and Jesus does that. So we see that God can inhabit the body of, not inhabit, I should say, but he can use the body of an animal, but evil spirits can inhabit those vessels as well. So animals are spiritual vessels, and I highly advocate for people to pray over their pets. So I'll leave that there. Number 4 is humility. I, out of all things, would not have expected to be humbled in being a dog owner. There's things that I've had to do that, I mean, even just thinking about like just picking up their waste. I mean, I'm sure you have to do it with human little ones, right? But it's different when it's an animal. And there's other things I've had to do that I would not have imagined. I'll even share a funny story. A few weeks ago, maybe even a month ago now, I had taken Silas to the farmer's market. I thought it would be so cute, like a girl and her dog, wore a sundress, so super cute. And as soon as we got there, Silas was just on one. Like, he is a rescue, and so he's neutered, by the way, but he likes to sniff everything and mark everything. So right off the bat, he's on mission to mark as many things as he can. If he's outdoors, anything is fair game. If he's indoors, he's never pottied indoors, thankfully. So he was already like sniffing and marking everything. He was going to the left and going to the right and tugging me more than he usually does when we walk. And he's wanting to approach other dogs like he would at a dog park. And they were just not having it. The owners were just giving me the look like, okay. And I remember I was on the hunt for some eggs and some other things. And this lady kind of caught my attention. She was like, I have some treats. And I was like, oh, okay, a little distraction. So I'm talking to the lady and she's telling me that they have lamb bones, not cooked, by the way. And I just happened to look down and Silas has his little leg kicked up and he's peeing on the weight that holds the tent leg. I was so embarrassed because we wound up seeing it at the same time. And I was like, oh my gosh, I am so sorry. And she was like, it's okay. I asked her for water. She had to go grab some water that they had for the vendors. So I rinsed it and everything. And then there were these 2 guys behind me that had a French bulldog. I think it was a French bulldog. And it came and it was like drinking Silas's waist. You guys, it was so embarrassing. I don't think we were there for a good like 5 minutes. I was done. So I felt guilty and I went ahead and bought some of those lamb bones. It was less than $5 anyways. Bought those lamb bones and we hightailed it to the car because I was like, we're done. I was so embarrassed. And there's just other things that he'll do. Like, when we're on our walks, if people are out about doing things in front of their house, he'll like stop and just stare at them. And it's like he's listening to their conversations or something. And I'm trying to figure out what he's doing. And I realize, I'm like, oh my gosh, keep walking, Silas. You're so nosy. Like, there's funny moments and then there's more serious ones. And I'm just like, oh gosh, this was a very humbling experience. So yeah, they will definitely humble you, especially dogs. I don't know if cats will do that, but moving on. Number 5 is their unconditional love. I think this is the one point that everyone looks forward to when they're getting a pet, just because you're their whole world. You mean everything to them, When we leave for work, they're waiting on you to return. They don't do anything. I mean, they expect food, right? Like the bare necessities, but they don't expect anything out of us. They just want our love and vice versa. I happened to Google just the definition of unconditional love. What are the characteristics? And agape love came up and I was like, oh, that's so sweet. I don't think they would sacrifice their life on the cross for us, but they give a precious, unconditional love that I definitely appreciate. So, with that said, number 6, courage. I live in an area where there are a lot of stray dogs. And there's a few reasons why that I won't get into, but it's just like my area is just known for that. And on top of that, there are some irresponsible owners in the neighborhood who have repeat escape artists. It's different if it's like one or a couple times. They're dogs, they're going to try to do things. Thankfully, Silas hasn't tried to escape. I think he's too attached. But there are some homes that it's just like they post them in the HOA and they're like, yeah, they belong to this house. They always get out. And I just know that every time I walk him twice a day, every day, I'm more than likely going to run into a dog. And I never know their personality. You just never know. I've definitely run into some not so nice strays, but more than likely they have been nice, thankfully. So I'm just always praying that there are no dogs, period. That would be ideal. But number 7 is that praying in the small things, even just praying for safety on a walk, is critical. Like, we really need to be relying on God, even on the small things. And more than that, it's just like life, you know, life is going to life. Every day is not going to be perfect. Things happen. You never know. You could be walking and it may not even be a dog. Like, I've seen coyotes in my neighborhood. I've seen hogs and they could do some damage too. Sometimes, like once every few years, a family of bobcats will come through. It could be a crazy person driving through your neighborhood. You just never know. So always just be praying for safety. Anytime you step foot outside of those doors, sometimes a threat can even come inside. So you just never know. Always just be praying to God and leaning on Him for protection. It's just critical. I'll even pray, I'll pray for protection. But more than anything, I'll just say, Lord, if there is a threat out there, if a loose dog or whatever it is, just give me the courage to keep going. And I just pray that they are of a peaceable spirit. And I've gotten to, I think my life verse, I've picked it because of my walks, and it's Psalm 16:8. I've set the Lord continually before me because He is in my right hand. I will not be shaken. And I'm always like, clear the way, Lord. Even if there is some kind of threat, help me to not be shaken, to just trust in you. And it's so cool. Sometimes what'll happen is there will be a dog and I'll see it in the distance, thankfully. And the Lord will turn that thing right around. And so I don't even have to encounter it, but I will make sure to go home because I don't want to run into it at any other point. So just being watchful and prayerful. That's something I always think of too, is just, I always have to be vigilant. So sometimes I'll be talking to my mom or my sister on the phone and I'll tell them about to go walk and they'll be like, okay, get off the phone so you can pay attention. I'm like, thank you. Cause I really do have to pay attention, and cause you just never know. So those are the 7 points that I've come across, or I've kind of realized over these last few years in being a dog owner. Please share anything that you've learned over the last few years. Please share anything that you've learned in having a pet. And that's all I've got for today's video. I pray that you all have a blessed day or a blessed week, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.